These 8 useful English words will lift your fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score. And you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. Mr. Harris and Mrs. Bellini had not said a kind word to each other in 10 years. The whole street knew their feud by heart. What the street did not know was how it had really started, or how it would finally end. It was, by any measure, a deeply petty war. It was fought over a hedge. The hedge grew along the fence between their 2 gardens. Mr. Harris said it was his, Mrs. Bellini said it was hers, and for 10 long years, neither one would give an inch. They bickered about it every single morning. He would trim his side too far, out of pure spite. She would water her roses so the spray accidentally soaked his newspaper. Then they would bicker all over again. Every quarrel was over something trivial, a fallen leaf, a barking dog, a bin left out a day too long. No argument was ever too trivial for the 2 of them. He would scowl at her over the fence. She would scowl right back. Then they would each stamp inside and sulk for the rest of the afternoon. The street took sides. Some were Team Harris, some were Team Bellini. The feud had become a local legend. Nobody could even remember what had started it. Nobody, that is, except the 2 of them. And each of them remembered it quite differently. Then, one gray afternoon, a storm rolled in, the wind howled, and in the middle of it, out in her garden, Mrs. Bellini slipped on the wet path and fell hard and could not get up. She called out, but the storm swallowed her voice whole. No one came, no one, except the one man on earth she had spent 10 years fighting. Mr. Harris heard a cry through the wind. He looked out and saw his enemy lying on the cold, wet ground. He did not stop to think about the feud. He climbed straight over the hated hedge, tearing his good coat on it, and ran to her. He knelt down in the mud, held her hand, and would not let go. He called an ambulance. He sat with her in the pouring rain until it came, telling her, gruffly, that she was far too stubborn to die over a silly hedge. Up and down the street, neighbors peered from behind their curtains, astonished to see the 2 great enemies of the road huddled together in the storm. Mrs. Bellini was going to be fine, a broken wrist and a great deal of bruising. But as she was helped inside, something between the 2 of them had quietly broken too. And it was not her wrist. The next day, Mr. Harris knocked on her door. He was holding a pie, very awkwardly, as a kind of truce. And over that pie, at long last, the truth of the great feud finally came out. 10 years ago, Mrs. Bellini had waved at him over the fence on his very first day in the house. A friendly hello, but Mr. Harris, who was a little short-sighted, had thought she was shooing him away like a stray cat. He had scowled. She, hurt, had scowled back. And from that one silly mix-up, a whole decade of war had grown. They sat in her warm kitchen and laughed until they cried. 2 lonely old people who had wasted 10 years out of pure spite and pride, when all either of them had ever truly wanted was a neighbor to talk to. After that, the feud was officially over. A truce was called and kept. Mostly. The truth was, they still bickered every single morning. About the hedge, the dog, the bins, the weather, and 100 other gloriously petty, trivial things. But now they bickered over a pot of tea, in one kitchen or the other, because the daily fight, it turned out, had never really been a war at all. It had been the one thing 2 lonely people could count on, a reason, every single morning, not to be alone. They had spent 10 years sulking. Now, at last, they simply had a friend to argue with. Now, did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A noun for a long and bitter quarrel between people. Think of 2 families who have hated each other for generations. The 2 neighbors had kept theirs going for 10 whole years. The whole street knew the famous what between Harris and Bellini.
The word is feud.
The 2 families had a feud that lasted for decades. An adjective for being small-minded and concerned with unimportant things. Think of an adult sulking over who got the bigger slice of cake. Their whole war over a garden hedge was deeply this. It was a what kind of quarrel that should have ended in a single day.
The word is petty.
Stop being so petty and just share the remote control. a verb meaning to frown in an angry, bad-tempered way. It's the dark, angry face you pull when you are very cross. Mr. Harris and Mrs. Bellini did this at each other over the fence. He would do what at her darkly every morning across the fence?
The word is scowl.
She scowled at the noisy children playing outside her window. A verb meaning to argue about small, unimportant things. It's the snippy back-and-forth squabbling of cross, petty people. The two neighbors did this every single morning for years. They would do what about the hedge, the dog, and the weather? The word is bicker. The children bickered all the way home about whose turn it was. A verb meaning to be silently moody and resentful. It's giving someone the silent treatment with a grumpy face. After each fight, both neighbors would go inside and do this. He would do what for hours, refusing to speak to anyone at all? The word is sulk. When he lost the game, he went off to sulk in his room. An adjective for being of very little importance. Think of a fight over which way the toilet roll should hang. Every single thing the two of them argued about was completely this. No matter was ever too what for the two of them to argue over.
The word is trivial.
Don't waste your time worrying about such trivial details. A noun for a desire to hurt or annoy someone. It's the small, nasty wish to upset a person on purpose. Mr. Harris trimmed the hedge too far purely out of this. She soaked his morning newspaper out of pure what?
The word is spite.
He broke the toy out of spite just to upset his little sister. A noun for an agreement to stop fighting. It's the white flag that ends a long and bitter quarrel. Mr. Harris offered one, holding a pie very awkwardly at the door. After 10 years of war, the two neighbors finally called a what?
The word is truce.
The two armies agreed to a truce over the holiday period. Quick recap. How many do you still remember?
Feud. Petty. Scowl.
Bicker? Sulk?
Trivial. Spite. Truce.
A new English story every day. Subscribe and learn useful words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.